Hi, today I'm going to be looking at growing sprouts and microgreens, but without soil, just hydroponically. So we've got our kit ready, so let's get on and get on with it. I've been growing microgreens and sprouts for a couple of years and just using them in soil base. Now we've had various amounts of success. Sometimes you get a great crop, sometimes they get susceptible, they rot, or you get flies coming in the soil and stuff like that. So I thought what we'd do is give it a go, just actually doing it completely soilless. So to do this, we've got two methods that we're going to use. We've got this little terracotta set of pots here. Now these are little pots where they're just like individual 3 little pots with drainage holes. And then down at the bottom, you've got like a little water catching tray. And I've had these soaking for half an hour in water, as they've instructed me to do so on the instructions. Let me just dry that off a bit. So you're going to give that a go. Now the claim is that because these terracotta pots get moist, they'll soak up any excess water that you put in them on the seeds, and then they'll release it back in to the seeds when they need it. A bit like we use with the Oyas down at the plot for the tomatoes and the cucumbers. So we're going to see if that is any good. And the other method we're going to use is we're going to use some just trays where we're going to actually put the microgreens into the actual trays, and then we're going to actually stack those, and we're going to go grow them in trays. And then afterwards, once they've grown up a little bit, we've got a tray that we can put some water in to see if they grow in the water. Whereas in here, they're obviously just in the bottom of the actual dishes. Now, interestingly, with these, they give you some little paper discs to put in there. With these ones, they give you, obviously this is the tray, they give you some paper to put them on. Paper is smaller than the actual tray part, so all the seeds are just going to fall down the sides there. So what we've done is we've got some of this dehydrating mat, which is the stuff that you put if you're dehydrating fruits and stuff like that. You can put it on there to dehydrate it. So we're just going to put that in there, which is nice little finer holes. Going to put that in there, and then just put the paper on top. Now, in the instructions for this one, they say, oh, well, just put a piece of paper on the bottom, put a piece of paper on the top, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do the more traditional way of actually stacking these on top of each other for the first few days. Weight it down to see how it goes. So for this particular experiment, we've got 3 different types of seed. We've got some radish seed there. We've got some alfalfa sprouts, and we've also got some broccoli seeds. And we've had those soaking for about 4 hours. And we've probably got a few too many alfalfa sprouts there because they sort of swell up quite a lot. Now you can use anything for growing sprouts or microgreens really. Obviously nothing from the nightshade family. So that's potatoes, peppers, tomatoes. Don't use those because they're all part of the nightshade family. But pretty much most other crops that will come up for a seedling, we're only trying to grow from to get them to sprout or to actually get them to their first like true leaves. And then we'll be cutting them off anyway. So if you're going to do that sort of thing though, just obviously don't use some bog standard seeds for each variety, like broccoli, where you can get, when you buy a packet, you can buy a packet of thousands of seeds, not your F1 variety where you get only 50 seeds. I'm using just these, for the broccoli, I'm just using these broccoli packs. Now you normally get these packs of seeds that are done especially for sprouting, and they normally sell them in 250 grams up to 1 kilogram. Easily the most cost-effective way of doing it. So let's get started. Let's start with the bottom ones here. So we're going to put our paper disc in there. Give that a quick spray, and we're just going to spray this sheet on here to dampen it down. Okay, now I'm going to drain these seeds off, and then I'm going to just give them a quick swill in the sink. Okay, so I've just given them a quick swill off, and then it's just a case of getting some of the seeds, putting them in, put them in these little bowls, and I'm just going to spread those all around so we just get a nice single layer. So there we go, that's more than enough seeds in there. And then we'll use the other ones. We're going to spread them off. Get those all out. And I'm just going to spread those try and get them as evenly as possible, because we don't, the more even than we get them, the better they'll grow. So there we go, that's them all spread out on there. So that's the radish done. So what we're going to do now is just actually, for this, is before we put the lids on, we're just going to give them one little spray over the top. They should be fine because they've been soaking anyway, but any excess water will drain through anyway. And then we're going to get our next tray. I'm going to put that on top. And get our next bowl, put that on top, and get out another paper disc. So what we're going to be doing for this is so once they're actually, time cycle for these is that once they go into these pots and trays, is that for the first 2 days, we're just going to be giving them a spray of water twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And that's for the first 2 to 3 days. Then from day, depending on how they're sprouting, from day 3 to 4, they've said on this particular system, they said to just take the trays off and give them a rinse under the tap and then put them back. For this particular system, normally what will happen is if they've grown up a bit, what we'll do is instead of having the trays stacked, we'll then get these trays and put a lid on them to keep them covered up, because what we want to do is try and encourage them to reach for the light. We don't want them to be little stumpy. Normally when you're growing seeds, you want them nice, like sturdy, stumpy little seeds. But what we want is them to actually sprout up as much as possible. And then once they've all sprouted up as much as they're possibly going to do, is we can then take the lids off and expose them to some light, and that will green up the tops, because at that point they would look quite limp and yellowy. But then once we get the light on, and then they'll be ready for harvesting. Now this kit over here is supposedly just for sprouting, but what we are going to try and do is see how far we can push that in terms of once they've sprouted, we'll keep watering them, and then we'll take the lids off and put them in the sun and see if we can get them to grow up a little bit higher. So next, let's do the broccoli. So here's our broccoli all nicely washed off. And again, they're quite, as I say, this is about 50 grams worth of broccoli seeds. So I'm just going to get those in there, spread them around. That should be sufficient. I'm just going to get this and give it a good spray again. And then we're just going to whack all those out on there. Now these will go everywhere because they are tiny, and when they're wet, they just stick to everything. So just get as many as we possibly can out. And then we're just going to spread these. We've probably got a few more than we actually need here, but we'll spread them out. as I say, these are little tiny seeds, broccoli seeds. So if you haven't got the matting, extra matting in there, they will just fall straight through. So we're going to spread those out as best we can. Just to give a good coverage. There we go. Let's just swirl my hands off that. Oh, a few going over the side. So that's those ones. Now, what you will find is when you come to actually take these trays apart, when you spray them, is you will find that actually, if you even look there, there'll be a load of seeds and seedlings stuck to the top. If you just give them a little spray when you actually do the spraying of the watering, that will encourage them to actually go down. So we're just going to give them a quick spray, put them down. And then onto our last set, which is the alfalfa sprouts. Just put those discs in there. Give that a bit of sway to dampen it down. We'll give the sheet a spray. Let's give this a rinse off. And then we'll grab our alfalfa sprouts. As you can see, I mean, one of the things they say is you can see the water in here is all quite brown already where it's come off there. Now, one of the things they did say with this set was that actually, depending on what sprouts you grow in it, these will discolour over time. So we're probably expecting something with alfalfa sprouts that these bulbs might discolour, so they might not stay as pretty as they are at the moment. But it's quite a cute little kit. Right, so that's our alfalfa sprouts washed off. Just going to grab a handful of those, put them in there, spread them out. That should be fine. We've probably got far more than we need here, so we'll put a little bit on and then we'll spread those ones out and see how it goes. Just aiming for a nice thin layer of seeds. We don't want it too dense, but we do want it to we do want a good coverage. We do want some nice dense crops of things. So we're just sort of trying to aim for getting all the seeds down and on there. So we're going to go with that type of coverage and see how it works. So again, just give them a little spray. And then we'll put the top tray on. And then we'll put a rock on top of that, just to keep it all the way down. And we'll put the lid on there. So that's all our seeds prepared. We'll be following this over the next few days. So stick with the video and we'll give you an update as each day goes by. So it's the end of day one and I'm going to have a quick look at, just give them a quick spray and have a look how they've been doing. So let's have a quick look. So first we have the terracotta pot, and let's have a look at the ones at the bottom. As you can see, there's a few of the radish starting to sprout now. So we're going to give those a spray. Give those all a good spray round. Now, I would say that the claim that these pots, that's the broccoli, a few little sprouts in there, but not a great sign of action. Now they say that these terracotta pots soak up excess water and then release it back. I would say that doesn't really play out, because these terracotta pots are quite dry now, and these are the alfalfa sprouts. So they're sprouting as well. So give those a good spray. And let's have a look at the tray ones. So starting off with the ones at the bottom here. Getting quite good germination there. I would say that that's a little bit better than the terracotta pot. After day one, we've got quite a few seeds sprouting. Okay, let's have a look at the Brussels sprouts. Now that is, I would say, is a much better germination rate than the other ones. Quite a few stuck to the bottom there, so we'll give that a good damping down. And we'll just damp the bottom of that tray down as well, just to encourage those to come off of the tray. And then let's have a look at the alfalfa sprouts. Again, quite a lot on the bottom of the tray. But in actual fact, their sprouting is a lot better than in the terracotta pot. But give them a good spray over, and we'll just spray the bottom of this as well, just to stop these, just encourage these to actually come off of the tray. But yeah, if you look closely here, in the camera down, there's a lot more sprouts in here, I think, compared to this one, where they are sprouting, but the sprouts just seem to be longer in the plastic trays. So put that back on there, put the lid back on, rock back on. So that is the end of day one. Given the spray this morning, and we've just given the spray this evening, and we'll check in on them tomorrow and see how they're doing. So at the end of day two. So let's have a quick check on progress. Let's look at the terracotta one. We've given it a spray before we started. So this is the alfalfa sprouts. This is the broccoli sprouts, all sprouting quite nicely. And this is the radish from the terracotta set up. Stack those back up. And put that to one side. So let's have a quick look at the trays. So here we are with the radish. Now, I would say that we've got better germination there. This is the broccoli, and comparing that to the broccoli in here, not much difference. I would say that if you compare them side by side, it's about the same. And then finally the alfalfa sprouts, and if you look at those, I would say they're slightly further on. These ones slightly more green and stuff. So these are getting to the point now where tomorrow we're going to flip the lids over. And one thing I have noticed on these is that in terms of roots coming through, look at this a bit more closely. So in terms of the roots coming through, you can see there's all these little filament roots are coming through, which is what we want. But they're coming through only on the bits where the paper isn't, so they're struggling to get through the paper. So I think we'll do, again, when we do this next time, we'll perhaps get rid of the paper and just risk the fact that some of the seeds might fall through the little membrane. Because what we really want is the actual roots to come all the way through the bottom so they can access the water in the tray below. But we will persevere and see how it goes. So that is the end of day two. Tomorrow we're going to flip these lids over, because these are starting to grow now and they need a bit of space, and we'll carry on from there. So here we are, day three already. So let's have a quick check-in on how everything's doing. So let's have a look at this one first. We'll give this a good swill out today, which is one of the things. The alfalfa ones, looking quite good. That's the broccoli ones. And there are the radish. So everything's looking quite good in there. Getting to the point now where it's another couple of days and we'll probably be able to start eating those. So let's have a look at the trays. So this one, I've turned the tops over. So this is the alfalfa sprouts. So they're all coming out nicely. This one is the broccoli here, which is all looking good. As I say, all these roots are coming out around the edges. So we put some water in the bottom, we are still spraying the top because the roots haven't come all the way through. And here we have the radish. And they're all looking really, really good. Again, on here, the roots are coming through on the bottom here, but not in the middle where the paper was. So these, next couple of days, we're going to have what we call the blackout zone, where we're going to put the lids on and encourage them still to grow up. But these particular plastic sheets, or the trays, aren't particularly, you can see my hand through there, aren't particularly blacked out. So to assist with that, what we're going to do is we're just going to use this old bath towel, which I use for drying vegetables on and everything else. And we're just going to put that over the top of them so that when they actually are blacked out, they won't get any light to them at all, because these lids, you'd see that there is still light getting through. So we want to do a couple of days of them blacked out. That'll help them just try and shoot up towards the light. And then we'll be able to take the lids off and it will be on for growing on. So that's the end of day 3. Catch me again tomorrow and we'll see how we're getting on. So here we are, day 4. We've got everything uncovered now. So let's have a quick look at what we got. So here we have the alfalfa sprouts. They're doing quite well. I mean, they're ready to be eaten really if you wanted to eat them. There's the broccoli. It's doing quite good. We've had this out now in this. We took the covers off it this morning to give it a bit of light. And there's the sprouts. And in the trays, got the alfalfa sprouts. Again, if you look at the bottom here, only getting the roots around the edges. The broccoli. And here are the radish. So, it's all looking quite good. I'm surprised these little trays are doing quite so well. So next stage is we're just going to leave the covers off these now. Keep giving them more water. And then we're going to let them grow on for a couple of days. It's a bit of growth. Now the radish here, we could use those now as sprouts, but we want to try and grow them up a bit taller. Again, with the alfalfa, we could again just like take those out, use those in something or other, but we want to try and grow them onto microgreens rather than just sprouts. The broccoli, not quite so much now. It's still quite short and stumpy. I think we oversowed that a little bit, but we'll persevere with that and see how that goes on. And so that's how we are on day 4. So I think we're only a day or 2 away from actually cutting some of these up, having them in a sandwich or in a salad. So here we are on day 6. We didn't film yesterday, which was day 5. Day 6 of the sprouting trials. And we're in a good position. Actually, these are ready for eating now. So we're going to have a quick look at each one and see how we've got on. So if we look at the alfalfa sprout ones first, I'm quite surprised these are actually growing up quite nicely. Quite a bit of growth on those. They're quite deep in there. These ones, which are the tray ones, you can see on the bottom of these trays, the actual roots are coming through, but only on the edges. Let me bring you a bit closer so you can have a better look. Here in these trays here, these alfalfa sprouts, as you can see, the roots are coming around through the edges and not through the centre where the paper is. So that's not great, because as you can see that the ones on the outside are actually growing up a little bit taller where they get in the water. On the sprouts, a few of the roots coming through in between, but not loads. And on the broccoli, again, roots around the edges, but not around the middle. These are the sprouts from the radish sprouts that were in the trays. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a board out and we're going to just pull a few of each. Now I think these haven't grown up very much because they were quite densely packed, and I think we probably put a few too many seeds in there. So let's get a board out and we'll get a few of each from each lot out just to compare. So we've got our board here, and we're going to start by taking a few sample of these ones out. So we're going to put the pot ones on this side, some of the broccoli, and it's so much easier. I mean, you just pull them out. And these are the alfalfa sprouts. So and we get the radish ones here, and again you just hold that down, just pull that out. Let's grab a pinch of the broccoli ones and get those out. And we'll get some of these alfalfa sprouts out. Let's grab this section here. Okay, so let's move these trays out of the way and have a closer look at what we're dealing with. So here are our trays. Let's come right down on that. So here we have the ones that came out of the terracotta trays, and these are the ones that came out of the other trays. And as you can see, actually, when we look at the alfalfa sprouts, the actual growth in the plastic trays is a lot bigger, it's a lot greener than those ones. On the broccoli, I would say that in terms of actually, if we look at two of them together, they're quite comparable in terms of size. They're actually, in terms of growth, there's not much in it. There's a little bit more on the terracotta one. In terms of the radish, much better growth in terms of length on the terracotta ones. But either way, both sets perfectly edible. But of course, it's not just in the actual growth, it's in the taste as well. So we're going to have a taste of a few of these. See if there's any comparable difference. I don't expect there will be, but and that's the radish ones. Oh, they do kick a punch, nice peppery punch on the radish seeds. Well, that's surprising. I think the ones from the trays, the plastic trays, have got a pepperier taste. The ones, we'll go. The ones from the terracotta, not quite as tasty. I'm quite surprised at that. So have a look at the broccoli. First, the ones from the terracotta. Very good, strong broccoli taste, brassica taste coming through on those. Again, not much in it, but I would say actually that the tray ones are slightly milder. And then the alfalfa sprouts. Those are absolutely delicious. And again, these are slightly more grown and more open and a lot more mellow taste. So in terms of taste tests, certainly I think the trays have got a slightly milder taste to them than the terracotta pots, which seems to be a little bit more concentrated, but there is very little in it. I mean, if you put them side by side, if you give them a blind test, you'd struggle to notice the difference. I mean, it's a bit biased because I know these ones come from the terracotta and these ones come from the plastic trays. But in terms of taste, they're all really delicious. Now, one thing that we said we were going to do differently next time, and we have got a tray of broccoli seeds started off without the paper. So we're going to carry on growing those on. What we'll do is we'll share the results in a future video. But in summary, will I be doing it again? Most definitely. I mean, the fact that you can just pull these out, roots and all, and have them here, and put these into a sandwich later or something like that, and there's no dirt, there's no mess. They've grown perfectly well. As I say, broccoli ones over here, I think are a bit too densely packed in terms of seeds, so they've not seen quite as much growth, but there's lots of green there to harvest. In terms of the other sprouts, beautifully tasting. Definitely go this way again rather than using soil. They grow perfectly well like this, and there's none of the mess, and we've had no issues with flies or any other rotting off or any other infections. So certainly going hydroponically with these sprouts and microgreens is the way to go. In terms of the comparison between using trays and using these little terracotta pots, I was doubtful to start with whether you can actually get these to go beyond sprouts and whether there'd be enough moisture in there to actually make these actually into microgreens, but they proved to be perfectly adequate, and they're quite cute little pots. So highly recommend the pots if you've got a small setup and you just want to do something on your side. I mean, one thing that is once you have got them separated off, obviously you've got the drip tray for the bottom one, but the other two, there is no drip tray for them. So if you're watering them, putting some water through them, you will need some sort of tray or something just to put those on. But these trays, cheap and cheerful, as I say. Don't think you need the paper. If you buy some of the separate dehydrating membrane, soak your seeds. Actually, once the seeds have soaked and you spread them out, that membrane is fine enough that it doesn't actually let the seeds drop through. And they've worked really, really well. And of course, you've got them, depending on what your size is, these are ideal for just like 1 or 2 people. You can harvest these, do a few at a time. I mean, my personal preference is to do things like alfalfa sprouts rather than radish and broccoli. So we'll probably carry on doing the alfalfa sprouts. Maybe occasionally do some broccoli as well. Radish, it's okay. I do find the actual radish just you need to use it sparingly. You can't like just grab a handful of that and chuck it on something. The taste of the radish and the pepperiness of the radish will just overpower everything. So, and again with the broccoli, I mean, as you can see on this broccoli, we're always talking about the actual things. You can see the ones that are around the edges where they've got their roots down are growing out really well compared to the ones in the middle. So I'm hopeful that actually once we actually dispose of the paper matting, that actually those will actually grow really well again. So but I'd say I'll share that in a future video. All the stuff we've been using here, the trays, the bits and pieces and stuff like that, I've put a link in the description if you're interested in getting hold of any of those. But it's been a success, and I think we will do it this way in future, because it's certainly lost a lot less hassle, no need for the soil, and we've got some lovely microgreens and sprouting greens to actually have. So I'm going to be having these for lunch, and we will catch you again next time. Thank you for joining me.